right. So, welcome back, everyone, to the Notes and Quotes podcast. I'm so happy to have you guys here. If this is your first time, welcome to the community. It's going to be a really special treat for you today because it's not just me talking. We have a guest on, and I'm very excited about who this guest is because if you're anything like me, you are just trying to figure your life out. And part of figuring your life out is figuring out your career, figuring out your job path, and just figuring out what that looks like and how to grow in it, how to get one. So today we're going to be talking to somebody who can help us out a little bit. So I'm very excited. So today we're talking to Olajumoke Fatoki. She's a certified HR professional and career coach with over 8 years of experience transforming careers and creating inclusive talent pipelines. She's the founder of Thrive Careers Consulting, where she empowers professionals to build standout resumes, optimize LinkedIn profiles, and navigate today's evolving job market with confidence. Her expertise in talent management and employer branding spans various organizations where she led youth development and graduate traineeship programs across sub Saharan Africa. She's a passionate advocate for newcomer success, and she facilitates workshops with immigrant communities and also serves as a peer champion. She's also the host of Thrive Careers podcast. Go check that out, offering actionable insights on job search strategies, career clarity, and thriving in the future of work. So we're in for a treat. Olajumoke, thank you so much for coming on. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Naomi. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I can say that I'm really excited to be here. I've been looking forward to this conversation, and finally,
Yeah.
I get to connect with you. And I really love the purpose of your podcast. I went to listen to a few of them, and I love the way the conversations usually go, and I'm excited that I'm here today to also share my thoughts with you, and most importantly to connect with you and your wonderful listeners. Thank you.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you. That means the world. Oh, we're really, really happy to have you.
Thank you.
So, the way we start off our episodes is we use a quote of the day to form the foundation of the conversation, and the guest gets to choose the quote. So, do you want to just share with us what quote you chose today?
Yes, and I found that quite difficult, to narrow down to a particular quote. I don't know if you've had
Yeah.
people share that experience.
Oh, no,
I,
yeah.
I,
I
I
do as well.
realized I realized that, a lot of quotes are spoken to me at different areas, at different points in my life. So it was really difficult streamlining to one that I wanted to share. But
Yeah.
eventually, I settled for the one that says visibility is not vanity, it is a necessity for impact, because I feel like that is speaking to me, at this current phase of my life. Someone like me, I have struggled a lot in the past about putting myself, out there.
Mm,
I just thought that I was that person that usually tell people that I'm the back office, kind of person. Just let me do my thing behind the scenes. I don't
mhm.
have to be seen, to make impact and all that. But looking back down the line, I realized how much I'd changed myself all those years, trying to be at the back burner when I should be leading conversations. So, and eventually, when I realized the value of visibility, I'm not going to let go of it for anything. And, I'm really basking in the moment of that. And that's really why I settled for that particular quote, that visibility, is not a tool for, is not about being vain, it's not
Yeah.
vanity, it's actually a necessity for impact, especially in today's world.
Wow. No, that is incredible. And I really resonate with that as well. Just the whole mentality of wanting to stay behind the scenes and wanting to not feel like you're being vain or you're just basking in your own vanity, but realizing that you do have to put yourself out there in order to attain growth. So you were talking to us about that experience for you a little bit. So what did your early 20s look like when it came to just figuring out that career path and beating that mentality?
That's a great question. So I would honestly say that I didn't figure it out, in my 20s. I didn't have it all figured out. What my career has shaped out to become today. I wouldn't say that I had it all figured out in my 20s. But one thing I did was to live by a personal mantra. And I think I picked that up from growing up, that whatsoever my hands find to do, do it well. And that was what I ran with in my 20s. So I would take up whatever job came my way. I recall when I was in uni and I came home, when my mates were doing other things, I was always looking for an holiday job to do, something to keep myself busy. And I was always doing that. And even after school, the first job I got, and to put it out there, I didn't even realize that there was anything called career path at the time. I was just doing whatever I find to do. And as a person, I just didn't know how to do things half-heartedly. Whatever it is that I wanted to do, I just had a way of going all out. And that usually always ensures that I stand out wherever I go. So in my 20s, I was trying out my hands on different things, or on different jobs. And it was in the middle of that I figured out what I really wanted to do with my life. I'd shared this story on LinkedIn before. you know that was when I figured out what I wanted to do with my life. Particularly one of the jobs that I picked up at that time after school was as a sales executive. Again, it was what I found to do at that time, not because I thought that was the path that I wanted to toe. And
Mhm.
while I was on that job, interfacing with different clients, you know, um, interacting with my colleagues, I realized that I was always that go to person amongst my colleagues that would take people's matter up on their behalf. I was always their spokesperson. They could confide in me about different things. And that was when it started to dawn on me that maybe sales is really not my thing. And don't get me wrong, I picked up a lot of transferable skills that has
Yeah.
made me exceptional in my HR career while on that role. But I figured out what I wanted to do with my life while I was there, because that was when I realized that I got this amount of energy, just trying to help others, just helping them understand that, what, you're having this current challenge with management. I can take up the matter on your behalf, and I would do it. And we will get results. And I became, their resource person, their go-to person. And that was when I discovered my passion in HR, which is, passion for helping people, get things right and all of that. So that's what I figured out in my 20s. And what I'll just say to young people is try out, different things. Again, I figured out that clarity doesn't come from waiting. Don't think that because you're in your 20s, you don't know what to do. You're just not, you're not trying out different things. That's the age to really experiment with different things, because it's in the course of experimenting with different things, different jobs, that you would find out what energizes you, what makes you tick, what differentiates you from others. And that's how you would be able to, figure out your own career path, because that's exactly how I was able to figure out my career path.
Wow. That is so incredibly reassuring and really impressive as well. First of all, I've never heard anybody explain HR in that kind of way before, because I've always just thought of HR as kind of like, the people who hire people and, who keep an eye to make sure everything's going professional. But I've never looked at HR as a way of being there for people in the way that you've
Yeah.
described it. So you've really just changed my perspective on HR completely. But it's
Amazing.
also extremely reassuring to hear that in your 20s you don't have to have it all figured out, and that you didn't have it figured out when you were in your 20s and you figured it out much later by just trial and error and going through the motions and doing all of these different things. Because there is, a stigma in that when you hit adulthood, immediately you have to have it set what you're going to
Hmm.
do and your career.
Hmm.
You need to know what it is. They even drill it into us from young, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? What's the one thing that you want to be when you grow up? And up to now, I mean, I still have no idea. So it's very, very reassuring to hear that.
Yeah, I would call that a misconception, and that has kept a lot of people stuck, you know, um, for so many years. And again, I like to add that in life, we need to understand that our journeys are different.
Yeah.
Some people just tend to figure out what they wanted to do with their lives earlier. and others don't. Some figure it out along the way. But what is most important is that you eventually, get to figure it out. So don't beat yourself up and start to compare. Don't get caught up in the comparison game. Oh, look at this person. She's had it all figured out. From some people will tell you they started singing at the age of 5, and that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Some people figured it out at the age of 70, and it doesn't make them less. So what is most important is that you eventually figure out, your own path and you work in it. Just wanted to add that bit.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I think a lot of people really do need to hear that. So, one of the things I would say is we actually recently did an episode about just the cost of living in your 20s and balancing finances and your dreams and passions and stuff like that. And a lot of young adults today, I think, are battling between following their passion and paying the bills because it's just kind of crazy how one is supposed to do that in this kind of day and age. So what advice do you have for people who want to find a balance between pursuing whatever passion it is and dipping their toe in all these different waters like you suggested, and also being able to finance their lives?
That is an interesting question, a very real one that I have also experienced in my own life. There's always that battle between, survival and following your passion.
Mhm.
But what I would just say is that it's important to understand the season that you're in, at every stage of your life. Life is in phases, and you need to understand that if you found yourself at a survival stage, don't mistaken it for arrival. So do
Mm.
whatever you need to do at that stage on the way to where you are going. If you need to learn a skill, if you need to do two jobs, in the face of survival, ensure that you do all of that because you need to pay the bills. There are things
Yeah.
that you need to do. But what is most important is to keep your eye on the future. Don't lose gaze of your dreams, because that's where it gets dicey, because a lot of people get caught up in the survival web, trying to pay bills, and you just get comfortable doing that years, year into year, month into month. You're just going round and round in circle, paying bills, and they just get settled in the, especially for immigrants. And I just had to put that, that have left the shores
Yeah.
of their countries to come, because of you're in a new environment. There's so many responsibilities all of a sudden. You don't have family members down the road that you can easily, run to. You have to be responsible for yourself. And a lot of us get in some of these survival jobs and we forget our dreams. Some have pursued their careers 5 years, 10 years before they left whatever country to come into a new country, and they leave all of that behind them and start, getting stuck in survival. So for me, recognize that you're in a season, and plot your graph. That's the key thing for me. Like in HR, we always tell people, if you have to exit an organization, don't just leave because you're tired. Map out your exit strategy. Have an exit
Mm.
plan. That's what I say to this case of, survival and fueling your passion. Understand that that's the phase that you're in, but you need to map out your strategy. For instance, what I did when I was stuck in a survival job was to keep my goals, ahead of me. I am a certified human resources professional, and that's what I would always be. So I started to look out for certifications while I was doing my survival job during the day. At night, I was studying for my certification courses to ensure that I kept in touch, with happenings in the HR space. I didn't lose sight of that. I was equipping myself, gaining the knowledge that I needed, speaking to people who are in that industry, especially in the new climb that I've found myself. So I would say that's the way, to plan to pivot into your desired dreams. Don't get caught up in survival. Understand that that is the stage that you're in, but use it as a sometimes use the survival money, like I said, to fuel your dreams. Keep your dreams in front of you and ensure that you're able to pivot at the end of the day. That's the advice that I would give.
That
I don't know
is
if that makes sense.
brilliant. No, it makes perfect sense. I think that that is exactly what people need to hear. It was really reassuring for me as well because I think that whole survival mode versus arrival is not a way that I've ever really perceived it. I've always thought, okay, in my 20s, I need to be achieving all of these really great things. I need to be paving the way to my desired future and everything, which is not necessarily wrong. But I think the way that a lot of us go about it makes us extremely stressed out and wondering if we're even going to actually make our goals and meet our path that we want and create the dream life that we want to, because it just seems so far out with all of the struggles that a lot of people are going through today. And a lot of us feel like we're stuck in dead end entry level jobs. And I know you touched on this a little bit, but do you have any more advice for somebody who might be in an entry level role? It's the first career that they've ever been in. Let's say, maybe they're working in the service industry, maybe they're working in corporate, but it's an entry level role. How are they supposed to make the most out of that for their own future?
That is another great question. And I have a personal mantra that nobody recovers from a great start.
Mm,
And I'll say that again. Nobody recovers from a great start. Foundation is very important to anything in life. So entry level is that opportunity for you to build. If you're going to, build a skyscraper, you know that your foundation has to be very strong. Entry
yeah,
level position is that opportunity for you to lay the foundation for a successful career. So the advice that I would give is, instead of treating that entry level position like, you know, just a face, you need to be very intentional, about it. That's the stage where you ask all the right questions. And I'm going to use myself again as an example. When I was doing my entry level role, I shared the example of how I just, did whatever job came my way, and eventually I figured that I wanted to do HR. By the
hmm,
time I realized that I wanted to do HR, I had to start all over again. So I started as an intern. I haven't worked for a few years in as an admin assistant, as a sales executive. By the time I was crossing into HR, I started from the scratch as an intern,
yeah,
but I was hungry. I was hungry. I was passionate. I wanted to learn everything that I could learn. So I'm not just telling people what I haven't practiced myself. And, I wouldn't say that my career is where it is today if I didn't give myself that kind of solid foundation, which,
yeah,
shows in anything that I do today. I worked so hard back then that my then manager would say, she used to call me a hounder, because whatever it is that if I was done with a particular task that she's giving to me, I'm asking for the next one. Like, what's the next thing? What else do we need to do? And that made me so invaluable. And it was easy for the organization to, move me from being an intern into a full-time position. So
hmm,
I haven't had that kind of background. I would advise, anyone to take advantage of entry level positions. Again, when I joined, a multinational firm in Nigeria, I remember that one of, our HR directors then told me about how he joined the organization as an intern. And just because of his commitment, the passion, he was able to grow. And today he's a director. And I've seen a lot of people who have such experiences. People don't just happen, you need to give yourself that solid foundation in your entry level position. So I'll say focus on two things, go beyond job description. Like I said, I was constantly asking what is the next thing to do, and I became my boss's favorite. Not because I was sucking up to her, but I understood. I was always, working with whatever it is that was a challenge for her, and I was ready, even though I didn't have all the experiences, but I was ready to get my hands dirty, to roll up my sleeves, and do whatever it takes to help the department. And that helped me stand out. And again, that formed the foundation. Whatever it is that I do, any organization I join today, people can easily attest to my work ethics, and I picked that up, from my entry level position. So I'll just say, go beyond job description, build lasting relationships, be curious. That's another thing. Be curious at that level, be open to learning, ask the right questions, and, also seek mentorship, because that can really help you to become whatever it is that you set your mind to be.
That was like an entire plethora of amazing tips. I feel like I've just gotten a huge crash course on career development. That was great. Thank you so much. You mentioned mentorship, and I just wanted to segue to that really quickly. So, when asking for mentorship in wherever you're working, how do you go about doing that? Like, what's the best way to ask, or who should you ask to mentor you, and what does that look like?
The impact of mentoring can't be overemphasized. So for me, I don't just pick anyone to be a mentor, and I wouldn't advise that you just pick any random person, to be a
Hmm.
mentor. Number one, you have to feel connected to the person, because that's really going to impact how much you would learn or gain from the person. And you have to have seen that person from a position of someone who inspires you. And that was what really happened to me. There's someone, at the management level that I was always looking up to at the time. I just loved whatever, however she does her things, just really appeals to me. I would say that I was fascinated by her. And I was also looking, to getting into that position sometime later in life. So it was easy to see my future in that person. And that led to me trying to reach out, to connect with her. She was the MD of a particular subsidiary, at the time, and I was just an entry level person. And of course, reaching out to somebody at that level, for me as an entry level position, I had to summon courage, and I had to find a way to be in their business. Again, like I said, I was somebody who already understood the value of, taking responsibility and showing that I
Hmm.
was ready to learn. So that was how I was able to find my way into a circle, by offering, to do something in our team that I knew how to do. And I did it so well that I was able to stand out to her. Of course, my my intention was to get into a circle, and that was how I was able to go about it at that time. I got her attention. The first things first, I was interested in the achievements that she's been able to build for herself. I saw
Hmm.
my future, just looking at her, I saw my own future. So I was able to then get close to her and, receive mentorship. It wasn't really a formal kind of mentorship. It was just me observing the way she does her things at that
Yeah.
time, observing the way she would respond in meetings, the way she would do her job, and, just the special qualities that she had. That was how we started until we're able to now develop something formal afterwards. So that's just what I would advise in terms of mentoring. What are the qualities that you are looking out for? Does this person, have it? And find a
Mm.
way to get into their network, because a lot of people also have this wrong impression that mentorship is just about getting and getting and getting. It's actually a two-way street. And, like one of my guests said in one of my episodes, that he likes to emphasize the giving part. It's okay to receive, but you must also be ready to give. Like I said, I found my way into a circle and offered a
Mm.
service, and she took notice of me, and we're able to build something out of that. So that's what I would say in terms of mentoring.
That's brilliant. I feel like I've learned so much from that as well because people have mentioned mentoring to me and I never really knew how to go about it. I wasn't sure what I should do because what I've always done is a little bit of what you mentioned is just kind of observe things. So I tend to think of myself as a very observant person. So if I saw somebody that I admired in an organization or that I worked with, I would watch the way that they do things and try and figure out how I can implement it to my own role and use that for growth. But I never thought to, hey, why don't I just talk to them and actually ask
Reach
them
out to them.
what their advice
Yeah,
is, you know? And then the two-way street thing is something that you're right, not a lot of people think about it like that. Usually you are asking, when we are asking somebody for something, it's to receive and you're not thinking about it as a transaction or like as a mutual benefit. We're always
exactly.
asking to get something from the places that we work with. And I think it's really beneficial to see, and somebody would see you as a larger asset and a bigger benefit if they're getting something from you as well. So that's really interesting. And
Absolutely.
speaking on the observation thing, what do you think of LinkedIn? Like, how valuable do you think LinkedIn is, and what are some things that people should be doing on there? Because I see everyone, when they become, getting into the career phase, they now feel like, okay, now I need to get a LinkedIn account. But I don't know how to do a LinkedIn account because it feels like another CV that I have to write. I don't know what I should say. I don't know what I should be doing on there. And it just feels really overwhelming. What would you say to somebody like that?
Okay. um, LinkedIn is the largest network of professionals.
Yeah.
And if you're going to, make sense in today's world, you have to be on LinkedIn,
Mm.
regardless of your generation.
Yeah.
Regardless of your generation, Gen Z, Gen X, you have to have a presence on LinkedIn. And
Mm.
this conversation is not about LinkedIn optimization, but you know, because again, I'll just say it's not just about having a presence on LinkedIn, just having your profile there. It has to be optimized. But that's
Mm.
another conversation altogether. But to answer your question, I think that LinkedIn is non negotiable. If you're someone who is passionate about career success, you have to have a presence on there. But I hear you when you say a lot of people feel overwhelmed, and I've worked with clients who have, shown me that this is a challenge that they have. And again, I attested to that in the course of this conversation, that I was also at that point, in my life at some point when I just felt, oh, how much should I really be sharing on LinkedIn? Does it
Yeah.
not feel like I am, you know, blowing my own trumpet,
Yeah.
singing my own praises, should I just keep this to myself? There was always that struggle. But back to the reason why I chose the quotes about visibility, you really want to be visible in today's world, then you have to be on LinkedIn. And, to help people with the overwhelm, with the struggle, that's why a lot of people feel like they have to, put out content from the scratch. You don't need to be a content
Hmm.
creator to be on LinkedIn. Everyday experiences, everyday interactions, you can actually share using your LinkedIn profile, and connect it to, if you're looking to build a particular career, connect how that everyday experience that you've had, relates to a career that you're looking to build. And if that's it's complex, there are other ways that you can actually make your presence known on LinkedIn without having your own, creating content from the scratch. There's something I call strategic commenting, and it is so powerful. Other people have posted stuff that resonates with you. Go
Mm.
on there and put a comment, you
Mm.
know, put an intentional comment in that post. Don't just say thank you for sharing, like a lot of people
See
tend
loads
to
of those.
do. Yeah, that is good, but you can take it a notch higher, such that that comment would make you stand out from the pack. And there are tons of tools, out there today that you can use to, position yourself online, even in sharing, comments on a particular post. Okay, but what the point that I'm trying to make is, you don't necessarily need to create your own stuff, but you can repost somebody else's thoughts as long as it
Hmm.
resonates with you. You can repost, you can reshare, you can comment. It's very strategic, because if you come on my post and you make a strategic or an intentional comment, I'm definitely going to see it. The people who are in my network are also going to see it, you
Yeah.
know and that's how you begin to make yourself visible. And a lot of people say thank you for sharing, and that's common. But if you put something extra that shows a little bit of intentionality, that would make you stand out. I've made I've built quality relationships on LinkedIn just by commenting on their posts, and they sent me a DM to say, "Oh, I love that," and we've built quality relationships from there. So leverage LinkedIn, or the social media in today's world, is just it's just amazing. and the kind of opportunities that it affords us in this generation is mind blowing. And we should
Mhm.
be taking advantage of it, especially on LinkedIn. And don't get overwhelmed by creating your own content from the scratch. Sometimes, doing all of this strategic commenting, reposting, resharing is where you would then find your own voice, and then you can begin to start sharing your own original content. But you need to start from somewhere. If you never start, you would never know what the journey is going to look like. But if you start, you know what not to do, what to do, and then you'll get better from there. So don't get overwhelmed by putting your presence on LinkedIn. Start from somewhere. Start by commenting, start by resharing other people's thoughts, and you never know how far you can go from there.
I feel like you're
Those are
just
my
an
thoughts.
inspirational whiz. Like I feel like every single time that you share some wisdom with us, I'm just like enriched with knowledge. It's amazing. With the strategic commenting, can you give us an example of something that you might say? Let's say I don't know. So what would you if somebody posted something that
Okay,
interests you?
I get you.
What's a way to
What kind of
respond to them?
comments can you put? Okay, so for instance, someone has just shared, oh, I just got, and this is very common on LinkedIn. Someone has just shared, oh, I just got my certification from so and so, and then you see people just go and say, oh, congratulations. you know Taking it a step further for you would be, congratulations, you beat the odds. You went against the tide and you were able to accomplish this. Just literally going through the post in itself and coining out something from it that stands out from the ordinary. Just as simple as adding that, you beat the odds, because a lot of people, not so many people, have that extra layer of certification. So that's someone trying to go outside of the ordinaries, and you're attesting, or you are revalidating that when you add that to your line, as against
Mm,
just saying congratulations. So just adding that extra layer, acknowledging something that someone has done,
yeah.
going, yeah, just ordinary, not just going beyond the ordinary. That's just basically what it means to be strategic, and putting that comments out there. That's what I meant by strategic commenting.
Really interesting. I'm gonna start doing that now because I just my practice is I think I try and post on LinkedIn every now and then, just updates that I feel are relevant, but I very rarely comment on other people's pages. And there was something you said earlier about if I comment on someone's page, not only, and a meaningful, intentional comment, not only is that person going to see it, but their network as well will also see it. And the people that I'm connecting with are people that I want to be in their network. So it makes perfect sense to comment and do the strategic commenting because I want to connect with not only them but the people that they're connected to as well. And that's such an interesting way of doing it instead of just trying to do everything from scratch and posting, you know,
And it helps you to get noticed as well.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So in the same thread of career growth, what do you think career growth really means for you? Because I feel like anytime people think about career growth, they just think promotions and getting a new title and getting a raise. What is career growth to you? Is it that or is it anything more than that?
All right, so I would say that career growth is not just about moving up, even though that is a significant part of it. Because if you're stuck in life, if you're not getting the promotions, if you're not growing, that can also be discouraging. So I totally resonate with that, with the fact that, all of that comes with career growth as well. But that's not just what it is to me. I think it's the constant evolvement, for me, the fact that I'm not where I used to be, and I can trace, I can literally trace the difference from where I used to be. I shared my experience when I started my career journey, and where I am right now. And it's not just about the cash in my bank account. It's the growth, it's the impacts that I've been able to make, you know over the years. It's the influence that I've been able to, you know is the people that I've been able to influence in the course of my journey. I've had people who have reached out to me to say that, they are inspired by my story, and that's why, you know, they are also pushing, and they've seen me, evolve over the years and being a source of encouragement to them. And I think that's really, what keeps me going. And I think that's really what career growth is for me. The fact that I am able to, without necessarily having a formal relationship with people, but that my story can actually mentor others, into their desired position. For me, that is what it means. And, also gaining clarity over the years, the kind of decisions that I am now able to make, which has not always been the case. I didn't, I, like I shared my experience in my 20s. Some people even already know what it means to have a career path in that. I didn't understand what career path meant. It was that
Yeah.
bad. It was that bad. That phrase it wasn't even clear to me. So, but I was just doing whatever it is that my hands finds to do. So for me, growth is so many things more than just the financial benefits that comes with it, even though that is interesting and nice to have. But it's the impact that I've been able to make. It's the people who can say that they have a changed story, because of, just looking at me, and how much I've been able to influence and impact others is really what, career growth means for me.
And I think it's continuing because I mean, I'm really hoping that the people listening to this are getting what I am getting from this because I think that you have such a power about you and your story and the way that you share it. And I'm not surprised that you've inspired other people because I think you're continuing to do that today. And it's just sharing your story and hearing myself in your story and your experience is exactly what people need, and then hearing how to overcome the same struggles that people might be going through today is just beautiful. So I'm absolutely grateful for you to be here today. Okay, so coming on to our last couple questions. So AI is definitely the age that we're in right now. AI is everywhere, it's booming. I feel like there's new information about AI every single day. And it's something that Gen Z and millennials kind of just have to face when we're coming up in the career sphere, and it can be scary, but also inspiring. How do you feel about the growth of AI, and what should young people be doing to make sure that they can thrive in their careers alongside AI?
I think AI is powerful,
Hmm.
you know. It's revolutionizing our world, and it's here to stay. The earlier we started to embrace it, the better for us. And I know that a lot of people are already embracing AI and, taking advantage of all the amazing benefits that comes with it. So AI is here to stay, and I don't think it's going anywhere soon, and young professionals should be taking advantage of it. But here's the key thing that I would like to emphasize, in this conversation.
Hmm.
AI helps us to save on time, and free up time to do other things that we love, and to even be more efficient, to show up more stronger. It has a lot of amazing benefits, but the truth is AI cannot connect with people. you know AI can help you write reports, but AI cannot read the room.
Hmm. Yeah.
the you know the impact of people is still there. So what I would advise young professionals is learn AI, know how to use it, master it even, but never lose that human connection, because
Mm.
that's really the future, your ability to co-create with AI. So focus on skills like empathy, like leadership, like caring for people would be that differentiating factor, because AI, as powerful, as wonderful as it is, can really not, fill that void with people. So I would just say master AI, know how to use it, be sure that you're on top of it, but ensure that you do not lose the human connection.
I absolutely agree. I 100% agree. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Olajumoke. Do you have any last words to share with our audience before we sign off?
Yes, 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 I do. And I just want to say to, people listening out there that you need you don't need a title, to take up space. You just need your voice. In recent time I'm realizing that our voice has become the most powerful career asset that we have, and we need to use it. Don't look at yourself as too small to make an impact, or too young, to make an impact in the world. Your words, your voice carries power, and sometimes if you don't use it, you will not understand how much power it carries. And that's just one message that I think I want to leave with people. Use your voice. Use it positively to change the world. Use it unapologetically, to change the world. The world needs more people to speak up for what is right, and be that person. Don't be afraid to use your voice.
Oh, that's lovely. And I so agree. I absolutely, absolutely agree. That was brilliant. Thank you so much, Olajumoke. I really, really appreciate this conversation. And I think it's going to help so many people. It's helped me for sure. I feel like I'm going to be one to listen back to this, even when I'm editing it, to just kind of resonate all of the tips that you gave, just kind of condense them all, apply them to my life and my growth journey as well. And I know that so many people are going to benefit from this, because the number of people that I speak to in my generation who are suffering and struggling with the same questions that we talked about today, and the same things that you were experiencing in your 20s, where you didn't even know what career path meant, like you don't know anything about what it is you want to do for, your future. I think that so many people are going to feel like things are okay and that they can figure it out and it's not as daunting as
You
it
can grow.
seems, and they know what to do now. So that is really just wonderful. And where can people find you? Tell us a bit about how people can learn more about you.
All right. So people can actually find me on LinkedIn. I enjoy sharing my thoughts there. Most active on that platform, and I share topics around career growth, building confidence at work, and everything career related. So if you want to easily track me down, the first place to go to would be LinkedIn. And then recently I started a YouTube channel where I also share my thoughts. And, so those will be my two go to area. And on LinkedIn, I am at Olajumoke Fatoki. I'm going to share that with you, so maybe you can also include it in the description, so it's easy for people to, find me. And on YouTube, a Thrive Careers Hub. That's where you would on YouTube. Yeah, that's where you would find me. So you can find me on LinkedIn, and you can find me on YouTube, of course, across all different social media platforms. But those are places where you can easily get my attention.
Brilliant. Go follow her, guys. Please do. You will benefit from it. I will link everything in the show notes. You can easily go find her. You have no excuse. And that's all we have for you guys today. Thank you so, so much for listening to the Notes and Quotes podcast. And we will see you again next Tuesday. If you want to check us out, you can check us out on our socials as well, which will be tagged in the show notes. And I can't wait to see you again next Tuesday. Okay. Bye, guys.